All right. If you've done any modern web development, you have definitely run into NPM. I mean, it is a huge part of the whole ecosystem. But let's be real, when you're just starting out, it can feel kind of confusing, right? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pull back the curtain and demystify this thing. So the official docs kick things off with this pretty bold statement, huh? The world's largest software registry. I mean, that is a massive claim. And you know what? It's completely true. This thing is the absolute epicenter of JavaScript code sharing. We're talking well over 1 million different packages. Basically, if you have a problem you're trying to solve in JavaScript, chances are somebody's already built a solution and put it on NPM. Okay, so it's a giant library of code. Got it. But what does that actually mean for you as a developer, day in and day out? How does this massive thing actually help us build our projects faster and, frankly, better? Well, that is the exact question we're here to answer. See, to really get a handle on NPM, you first have to appreciate the huge problem it was built to solve. Think about it. As your projects get bigger and more complex, trying to manage all the different pieces of code you're borrowing from other people, well, they can become a total nightmare. NPM is the tool that brings order to that chaos. And here's the first big thing to understand. NPM isn't just a command you type in your terminal. It's actually a whole ecosystem. It's really made of 3 distinct parts. First, there's the website, where you can go and search for and discover all these packages. Then you have the command line interface, the CLI, which is the tool most of us use every day. And finally, you have the registry itself, which is just this massive public database of all that JavaScript software. So when you boil it all down, what's its main job? Well, at its core, NPM is all about managing a project's dependencies. And dependencies are just packages of code your project needs to function. Think of them like Lego bricks. Instead of trying to build a web server completely from scratch, why not just grab a pre-made web server brick like Express? NPM is the tool that goes out, finds that brick, and brings it right into your project for you to use. Okay, so how does NPM know which bricks to get for your specific project? Well, it all comes down to one single super important file, the package.json. Honestly, you can think of this file as the central nervous system for pretty much any Node.js project. This file, the package.json, is basically the recipe for your entire application. It lists out all the ingredients, the packages your project needs to run. But it also includes other important info, like instructions on how to run or test your project. It's literally the first thing you set up, usually just by running npm init in your terminal. Now, inside that recipe, you're going to notice a really important distinction. You've got your dependencies, and you've got your dependencies. Think of it this way. The dependencies are the actual ingredients that go into the final dish, like a web framework, Express, for example. It has to be there for the app to work. The dependencies, on the other hand, are your kitchen tools. They're things like testing tools that you need to make the dish, but you don't actually serve them to the customer in the final product. Okay, so let's move on to the command you are going to use more than anything else, npm install. I mean, it seems so simple, right? You just type it and hit enter. But there is a ton of really important stuff happening behind the scenes to make sure your project gets set up perfectly every single time. So what exactly is going on when you run that command? Well, first, it reads your package.json, your recipe. Then it does something really clever. It figures out not just the packages you listed, but all the packages that those packages depend on. This whole web is called the dependency tree. After that, it downloads all of that code and sticks it into a folder called Node modules. Think of this as your project's pantry. And finally, the last crucial step, it creates something called a lock file. That last step, creating the package-lock.json file, is so important. You can think of it like a perfect snapshot. It's a super detailed record of the exact version of every single package that got installed. It's not a guideline, it's a rock-solid guarantee of what your project's dependency tree looked like at that exact moment. And why is that guarantee so critical? Because it solves the single most infamous, hair-pulling problem in all of software development. The classic, I don't know, it works on my machine problem. By committing that package-lock.json file to your project, you make sure that every single person on your team and even your automated build servers gets the exact same setup every single time. It guarantees consistent, reproducible builds. Okay, so we've installed all our dependencies, the project is set up, now it's time to actually run some code and start building. But, with all this power of using other people's code comes a pretty big responsibility, especially when we're talking about security. If you pop open your package.json file again, you'll see a section called scripts. This is basically your personal toolbox for automating common tasks. So instead of having to remember and type out some long, complicated command to start your development server, you can just create a simple shortcut for it, like NPM start. It is a massive time saver. All right, let's really dive into security for a minute. When you're using code from a public registry, you're placing your trust in code written by thousands of different people all over the world. And that trust means you have a responsibility to verify things and keep your project safe from any potential vulnerabilities. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, there are a few key habits that will go a long way. First, always protect your own NPM account with two-factor authentication. That's a must. Next, get in the habit of running NPM audit regularly. It'll scan your project for known security holes. Also, be super careful to never publish secrets like API keys. Use a .gitignore file for that. And finally, if you're ever installing a package you're not totally sure about, you can use the -ignore scripts flag. It helps minimize the risk of a malicious package running code when you install it. All right, to wrap things up, let's cover a couple of really common points that tend to trip people up when they start using NPM on real-world projects. We'll also see how it fits into the bigger JavaScript ecosystem. One of the biggest points of confusion is local versus global installs. But honestly, the rule of thumb here is super simple. 99% of the time, you're going to be doing a local install. Packages like React or Express, they belong to a specific project, so they get installed right there in that project's node_modules folder. The only time you really use a global install is for system-wide command line tools that you want to be able to run from anywhere, like, say, the TypeScript compiler or NodeMon. It's also good to know that while NPM is a default, it's not the only player in the game. You're going to see another tool called Yarn a lot. For a while, Yarn was way faster because it could install packages in parallel, whereas NPM was doing them one at a time. Now, NPM has caught up and adopted a lot of those same speed improvements, but knowing that little bit of history helps explain why you'll see both of them used so often today. And that really is the whole idea behind NPM. It's so much more than just a tool. It's your gateway to this unbelievable, massive shared library of code. It literally lets you stand on the shoulders of giants. So the only real question left is, with all of these millions of packages right at your fingertips, what will you build next?